despite all this NIL stuff, and that's very important, you still have to have a lot of talent from home. Last year, Oregon had two 4-star or better prospects in the state of Oregon, 0 in the national top 100, only 1 in the top 247. Distance from home is still a really big factor for recruits, even with the NIL game and the shadow kind of NIL bag game and all that stuff. It is still a really big factor. You are still almost always moving away from home for the first time in a way that, like NFL free agency, we don't see it. Although we see it in baseball some, like Seattle has a tough time, signing players from the Caribbean at times. They have to really overpay for them to, get them to go that far away from home. It is just tougher to get kids to go to Oregon than it is to USC. And it is tougher to keep them there because homesickness can be a real thing. And because it's not easy for mom and dad to get to the games. It's just way, way out there. I love going out to Oregon. I really miss when Nike had the opening out in Oregon as opposed to having it in, Jerry World, Dallas stuff. I don't look forward to going to Dallas and sitting in a parking lot for like 1,000 degrees every summer. Oregon was cool. Like I really liked it out
let's go tear up the Frisco bars.
But I'm not 18. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Demographics of Oregon are not similar to a lot of areas that produce a lot of really good football recruits. Obviously, that's a duh statement when I noted just how few players come from up there. While I think Oregon is to be applauded for their consistency, I do think USC has a ceiling that Oregon doesn't have. If they're both running at peak efficiency, I don't think that Oregon is the same. But Oregon's fighting like crazy. They just got Josh Connerly, right? Like that's a huge, huge win. Like Dan Lanning and those dudes are not going down without a fight. Like they pulled that one. That was impressive. But I do think USC has a higher ceiling just because of the talent in a drivable area. It's just not there.
I think one way to kind of frame what you're saying too, and it's not exactly what happened, but it's just a thing to consider. Chip Kelly, when he was at Oregon, left for the NFL, and part of the reason he said that he was leaving for the NFL was, the recruiting. Didn't enjoy doing it as much, just pain in the butt to recruit, all that kind of stuff. When he comes back to college, now it's because it didn't work in the NFL. So if he wanted to keep coaching somewhere, it was going to be college. Where did he go?
Los Angeles.
Exactly. So it's not as difficult to recruit in Los Angeles as it is in Eugene, Oregon. If you want a player, now obviously you still have to recruit against USC and other programs and all that kind of stuff, but it's not as tough of a sell to convince a kid to come to Los Angeles as it is to convince a kid to come to Eugene. That said, I do agree with the questioner in that it's important for both Oregon and USC to be good for the Pac-12, because if you just have USC, like, look at how the ACC has been viewed the last few years, where it was just Clemson laying waste to everybody. It's like, well, okay, they're getting to the playoff, but nobody considered the ACC to be a strong conference. Everybody was saying, well, Clemson's got an easy path. They don't have to play anybody. So, and as soon as Clemson slips up a little bit, they get thrown to the side. They can't afford a loss. So I think just overall, it is important to have, whether it's Oregon or USC or anybody else, to have two strong programs for the strength of the conference, for the national relevance, to keep them in the conversation and to give them a place at the table. And also, once you kind of get that established and Oregon keeps winning, and that's another part of the problem too that they've had, whereas, they had Chip Kelly, they were winning, he leaves. Helfrich comes in, doesn't really experience the same kind of success, although they did get to the playoff, but he gets fired. Mario comes in, starts building things back up. He leaves. Now Lanning comes in. There's been so much turnover at that coaching spot that it's been hard for them to find the kind of consistency that they need besides the results, but just within the doors of the program and consistency in that building to make it a more attractive destination for a player to come to. Because if I'm going to be leaving home, if I'm a kid from, Miami, and I'm going to go play in Oregon, I would probably be more inclined to make that decision if I really liked it there, if I could feel confident that the coach and all that staff that's there right now will still be there by the time my career is done.
2 straight coaches, Tom, have left for places with better talent.
Yeah.
Not only
Taggart,
Mario,
yep.
Taggart did as well. And like that, I remember that being some of the debate about the Lanning candidacy was, is he going to want to go, quote unquote, back home to Georgia, or back east? And like the guys who have succeeded there, they did a tremendous job recruiting. I mean, like you could say what you want about Taggart and Mario on-field coaching and program management, how easy or not easy is it work for those dudes. Those guys know how to recruit. Like, that's what got them jobs initially. So you have to just recruit your butt off to be top 10 at Oregon. Like, that's an amazing job recruiting.